anyone here know who's a Spanish speaker, needs Spanish, we have our staff member Adrian here who's available to translate. We have all of our materials in Spanish as well for anyone who walks in and needs that. But first, to get us kicked off, I'd like to invite up your supervisor, Jimmy Holland.
What is your name?
Can you guys hear me without the microphone?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is Claire Momberger. She's the lead on this particular project with our planning department. And we've got a few other folks from our planning department. Corey is the long-range planning division manager. And a few of our other planners out there. Come on in and we'll introduce you real quick. Welcome. This is Shawnee, who's the supervising planner, and then Nate and Dominique. So we brought pretty much the whole planning department here. I'm Jimmy Poldy. I'm your 4th district supervisor. James Sofranco is my chief of staff. And we're really excited to kick off this project. I know we've been talking about it for a while. When I joined the Board of Supervisors back in January of 2023, I immediately started talking with our staff about the fact that we had a 30-year-old plan here in Nipomo, and that it was time to update that thing. So went through a process of making it a top priority for this planning department, and here we are today. So it's really exciting, Thank you for coming and being a part of this. I actually studied city regional planning at Cal Poly some time ago and worked on a little project here in Nipomo when I was a student. So we've started a relationship with Cal Poly as well. We have 60 students that are also kind of supporting this effort. And they're not here today, but it's a good partnership. And we're going to hear more from Claire about the 4 workshops that we're going to do. This is the first one. But I guess a global comment I want to make is James and I, for the last couple of years, have been hearing from the community, hearing from you. Nipomo has grown quite a lot over time. I grew up in South County in Rio Grande, but it started off actually at Mesa Elementary before it was Mesa Middle School. So I've spent a lot of time here. And as it's grown, I think we can all agree that the infrastructure, the facilities, services, maybe haven't kept pace with that growth. And we see that there's more growth projected. And so, who here's on Nipomo Neighbors? On the Facebook group, some of you? Yeah. I know James and I hear a lot on that group, and obviously when we meet with our constituents, and there's a kind of a collective anxiety about some of the issues that we face here. Traffic congestion obviously is a huge one. Water planning, making sure that we have enough water for our future. That growth and development is scaled appropriately to the community. And so this is really an opportunity to engage you, the community, in the process of updating that plan for the next 20 years. And hopefully we get a plan that has some good policies in it, and we also have a financing implementation plan, because the 1994 plan didn't really have a chapter on how we were going to fund certain things. And so that's one of my objectives is to kind of take the things that you're really concerned about, prioritize those things, walk away with confirmation as to what this community wants, and then get it done, right? So that's my job as your supervisor, is to get stuff done. So that's my introduction for today, and again, thank you for being here, and let's have some fun, huh?
All right. Thank you. Welcome in, you guys. Again, my name is Claire Momberger, planner with our county. This is my coworker, Adrian. He assists our planning division. Adrian's here for any Spanish translation that anyone might need. We have some people live too on the live stream back there. Welcome everyone. We're again really glad you're here. So you'll see a couple agendas out around the room. We're going to start with an introduction and get into some background information about what this whole thing is about. But we're going to have about an hour for a couple activities, a group activity and then a solo activity to get some input from you all, help us collect data throughout this process. And then we'll come back around at the end to regroup, and then we have a survey available for you if you didn't complete that on your way in. I do want to start just with kind of some housekeeping things. So if you need a bathroom, there's bathrooms out the door to the left and then left again around the corner. Again, we have some snacks and water in the back. Please help yourself. We have plenty. And then also back by the water on the counter over there, we have a suggestion box with some index cards and some pens. The purpose of that is, as Supervisor Paulding was saying, there's a lot going on in your community, a lot of things you might be excited about, a lot of things you might not be excited about. And we want to hear those things. But this workshop today is focused on kicking off this Nipomo Community Plan update process. And so if you have anything you want to talk about, like some things that come to mind are battery storage or the Dana Reserve Project, I don't know if you've heard of these things. If you want to talk about those things, we'd like to do that too, but today's just not the right space for that. We want to get focused in on what we have here today. So please use the index cards back there to write down a question, write down a comment. If you'd like me to get back to you, please put down your information so I can do that. I would be happy to have a conversation with you and hear what you have to say. Let's see, what else? I think that's it. Adrian, if you want to translate a little?
Yes, thank you, Claire. All right, so.
Before you do that, let's just ask if we need translation. Does anybody here need translation?
¿Alguien en la sala necesita interpretación al español?
Muchas gracias. We are also live streaming for our folks.
Okay, then let's do it. Let's do it.
La moderadora de la presentación hoy se dedicaría a las actividades, pero vamos a empezar con la que vamos a
Keep the microphone to your mouth, yeah.
Thank you. Con algunos antecedentes para ayudar a todos a entender el contexto de esta coalición. Entonces, si tienen cualquier pregunta, por favor, no duden a preguntar, pero al fin de la presentación, también si necesitan baños, lo tenemos ahí atrás, vamos a salir de la salida de ahí atrás a la izquierda. Okay. Y para todo, lo voy a pasar para atrás.
Another thing I want to mention throughout the workshop, I have my business cards up here on the front if you want to grab that, so you can have my direct email and direct phone number. We also have some magnets up here. If you didn't get one, we'd love for you to take one home with you because you can access our website through that, but it's also pretty, so it'll be nice to have on your fridge. We also have copies of the PowerPoint slides up here if you want to grab those and take notes or take that home with you to remind you about what we talked about. You're more than welcome to do that. All right, and so let's talk about what you can expect from today's workshop. What we have here today is an opportunity for you to connect with your community and with your neighbors and with the future of your community. You have the opportunity today to learn about local government and what being in the county's jurisdiction looks like and means. You have an opportunity today to share your ideas and your values for your community and also be heard by the county. We're here because we want to hear from you. We bought snacks because we want you here and we want to hear from you. And all of these things are going to help you shape Nipomo, shape the community you live in.
Okay. Lo que puede esperar del taller de hoy. Lo que puede esperar, vamos a conectar con su comunidad, vamos a aprender sobre el gobierno local, compartir sus ideas y valores para Nipomo, ser escuchado por el condado, y todo esto nos ayudaría a dar forma a Nipomo.
I see my boss is handing around some PowerPoint slides, so if you want one, please raise your hand.
Send a bunch down the aisles.
All right. And so let's get into it. So as you all know, because you live in a community demand and development goes hand in hand with community infrastructure, facilities, and services. A growing population with more housing units, with increased commercial interest, requires good roads and safety services and parks and sidewalks and even more investment in the commercial and retail sectors.
La demanda y el desarrollo de la comunidad van a dar mano a la infraestructura, instalaciones y servicios comunitarios. Una población creciente con más viviendas y desarrollo comercial requiere carreteras, avenidas, servicios de seguridad, parques y más.
And so the way that the county accounts for the needs of community demand and community infrastructure is through our existing planning documents. And so I have some listed here, and I'll just kind of generally talk about them. I don't want to bore you and lose your attention. But the first is the County of SLO General Plan, and that's the document that has the overall land use and circulation, safety, etc. policies for our county. Kind of underneath that tier is the South County Area Plan, which has land use policies and circulation policies for the South County area. And then we have the 1994 Nipomo Community Plan, which has really focused policies on the Nipomo urban area and also contains a lot about the vision that the community has for Nipomo. And then the last two in this list are the Old Town Design and Circulation Plan and the West Tech Corridor Design Plan. And those are two documents that have design policies for those specific areas in the county, not just how those areas should look, but also how traffic should flow within them.
Entonces vamos a empezar con los documentos de planificación existentes. Primero, el plan de zona sur del condado, políticas generales del condado, y luego tenemos el sur área plan, y eso tiene políticas de uso de suelo y circulación del tráfico. También tenemos el 1994 Nipomo Community Plan, el uso de la tierra y las políticas de tráfico para Nipomo explica brevemente, sino que también contiene la visión de la comunidad y su infraestructura. Los dos planes de diseño tienen políticas para cómo las áreas Old Town y West Tech deben mirar y cómo el tráfico debe fluir.
There's a plan, a community park plan that you're not listing there. Is there a reason?
You're right, that's there too. I was just really focusing, the question was, is there a reason I didn't include the county's master park plan on this list? I'm really focusing in on the planning documents when it comes to like land use and circulation, kind of bigger picture. But there is a Parks and Recreation element that contains plans for your parks, and that actually does fall under the general plan umbrella. Thank you for that. And so obviously this workshop is about the Nipomo Community Plan update, right? So that's what the document that we're focusing in. That's the document that guides decisions around community development here and improvements, and that's what this whole effort is opening up. And there are 7 chapters, as you can see, in that community plan. But really, what we're going to be focusing on with this update are these 3 chapters. Chapter 3 pertains to public facilities, services, and resources. Chapter 4 is focused on land use, and chapter 5 is focused on circulation or traffic. And really what we're looking at through this effort is not updating, like I said, every single chapter and combing through every single policy within that. What we're doing over this next year and a half together is this really focused effort on what needs are there in Nipomo when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to services, when it comes to facilities. We're going to be really focused because, as Supervisor Paulding said in the beginning, we want to make stuff happen for your community. We want to get things going. There's momentum, let's capitalize on it together. And so really what we're looking at is like a refresh of the 1994 Community Plan.
I have a question.
Sure. If you don't mind, I would like to, I didn't mention this earlier, I'd like to save questions for 2 more slides from now.
Okay.
Thank you. So please hold on to it.
El Plan Comunitario de Nipomo de 1994 es el documento de planificación que guía las decisiones en torno al desarrollo y las mejoras de la comunidad, y es el documento que todo este esfuerzo está viendo. Hay 7 capítulos, pero este esfuerzo se centra en las políticas en los capítulos 3 a 4, específicas para los usos del suelo, la circulación de tráfico y las infraestructuras, instalaciones y servicios. Estos capítulos describen las mejoras que deben realizar en la comunidad de Nipomo.
Great. So how do we do this? How do we do a refresh? The way we're going to approach it is through the county's process is creating what's called a Public Facilities Financing Plan, or a PFFP. And what that is this implementation document that identifies and facilitates public facilities and infrastructure projects. So it's a document that's extremely action focused.
El plan de financiación de instalaciones públicas es un documento de aplicación que identifica y facilita los proyectos de instalaciones o infraestructuras públicas.
And so to kind of break that down so we all have the same vision in mind of what this document will look like, a PFFP describes the what community improvements are needed, the who's going to take care of them, who's going to address them, the when, how long is it going to take for them to get done, and the how should they be funded, and how should they be implemented. And what's really exciting is that this PFFP talking about the who, what, when, how for the future of Nipomo could be as specific and as detailed as you want as the community members. We don't want to just invent this ourselves in the planning department. We want this PFFP to be shaped by you who drive on the roads and walk through the neighborhoods and go to the stores. We want this to be shaped by you because you live here. And so that's why we appreciate you being here today, and we hope you're going to stay tuned with the rest of this process.
El modo en que lo hacemos a través del proceso de planificación del condado es mediante la creación de un plan de financiación de instalaciones públicas. Se trata de un documento de aplicación que identifica y facilita proyectos de infraestructura y equipamientos públicos. Un plan de financiación de instalaciones públicas describe que mejores comunitarios como arreglos de carreteras, aceras, parques, conexiones de servicios públicos y más. ¿Quién? Responsables como obras públicas, distrito de servicios comunitarios y más. ¿Cuándo? Calendario de proyectos a corto y largo plazo. ¿Cómo? Opciones de financiación y políticas orientadas para avanzar y actuar.
All right, so now you have some background information, some context on what documents we're looking at, generally where we're going. So now let's look at the journey that we're going to be on together. And so, yeah, we have these printed out here if you have some time later on in the afternoon and you want to take a look up close. But essentially for this community plan update with the public facilities financing plan, we're on this fast track 1.5 year effort to get to a Nipomo Community Plan with the public facilities financing plan. If you recognize this sign, I created it to look like the Old Town Nipomo sign. Pretty fun.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a beautiful sign.
Yes,
We
we
wanted
have
to
the mother here of the boy that did that.
Oh, beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
that's awesome. So you recognize it. Oh, sure, and thank you. So yeah, we're on this 1.5 year effort. Next fall, hoping to wrap up kind of the official part of this process, getting documents approved. But as you can see, there's these 3 major stops along the way that all involve community input and involvement. And so that first stop is the update to the community vision, which is happening this spring and summer. And then, let me mention though, just so you know what these gas stations are about. So along the way to get to these 3 major stops, how we're thinking about this is that we need to fuel up with community input, right? We need to hear from you. And so the way we're fueling up is through workshops like this. We're going to have 3 more workshops. We have that online survey or a survey outside here for you to take to help give us some input as well. And so getting to having an updated community vision is this first workshop, that survey, and then our second workshop, which will be in July this year. And then to get to the second stop along the way here, the community plan for public review in the fall, we are going to have a 3rd workshop called Forging the Path, where we'll review together what your community's vision is, how you want that to be funded and implemented, and then and then we'll get to forming the actual document for public review, and that's what our 4th and our final workshop will be, the final roundup, where we're going to be kind of going through that document together, looking back to see how far we have come, what the community has shared throughout this process before we get to the public hearings, which will be next summer there will be one hearing with the Planning Commission and one hearing with the Board of Supervisors. So this is our process, and then you can take a look at that up here up close if you'd like to.
Question?
Well, I'll wait. I'll wait.
Thank you. Como hemos dicho, este es un trabajo enfocado. Estamos en una pista de 1 año y medio para conseguir un plan de la comunidad de Nipomo que se actualiza con un plan de financiación de instalaciones públicas. En este proceso hay 3 paradas importantes en el camino. Para llegar a estas paradas, sin embargo, tenemos que repostar con el aporte de la comunidad. Para llegar a la actualización de la visión de su comunidad para la infraestructura y los servicios de Nipomo, tenemos este taller de Gather Round. Es una encuesta en línea de encuesta en marcha hoy y el segundo taller sobre financiación del viaje. A partir de ahí, tenemos que llegar a una revisión pública del plan de la comunidad, donde vamos a confirmar con usted y sus vecinos cómo forjar el camino a las mejores de la comunidad. A continuación, vamos a repostar de última vez, tener un último taller de la comunidad, la Final Roundup, donde vamos a mirar hacia atrás de lejos que hemos llegado, mirar el plan propuesto y prepararse para las audiencias públicas. Después de la Comisión de Planificación y la Junta de los Supervisores Audiencias, si todo va bien y los documentos son aprobados, tendremos un plan de la comunidad de Nipomo que tiene un plan de financiación de instalaciones públicas que da a Nipomo un camino a seguir para hacer las cosas.
Okay, great. And so now I'd love to take some questions about this process so far before we dive into some community activities.
Okay. So we're doing long-range planning. I just want to clarify. So does this, is a community plan created for a 20-year forecast? That's what it is? So that, yes?
Sorry, I just want to repeat the question for everyone. The first question is kind of what's the range of years that the community plan applies to? Typically, it's around 20 to 30 years for a community plan.
Okay. So this will include housing projects already in the pipeline and other things in the pipeline.
We will
as they
definitely.
show up.
The question was, will this update effort then include different projects, residential projects that are either being constructed right now or in the pipeline? And so that's a great question because that's really the context for a conversation, right? Is there are needs in Nipomo right now with the homes that exist here, but also infrastructure needs that are just going to grow as more people move here and more housing units are developed. And so that's really the context for this whole update effort is, with projects that exist now and those that are coming down the pipeline, what is needed.
Thank you.
Any other questions right now before we get into the fun? All right. Okay, so to kick off kind of this activity we're going to do as a group, we're going to talk about just your vision, have a little bit of a conversation for a little bit because we're actually doing really well on time. All right, so this first question I'd love to hear from you all, and you can just raise your hand or shout it out. How would you describe to me what it's like living or working in Nipomo?
Not much traffic.
I've lived here a long time.
Okay, I heard too much traffic.
Yeah, we'll be raising hands, please.
When I moved here back in 1979, this was a rural community. Everyone had an acre at least. There was a lot of dirt roads. There's a lot of horses, chickens, goats. It was very rural, and people had, farms and things like that. And since then, I just see all these housing developments. Open land is gone. And there's so much congestion. People and streets are congested with cars. And I hear sirens all the time, which we never used to hear. And it's usually the fire department, and I hope that we're gonna get another fire station because they are overworked. So, you know, along with all the people is, you know, accidents and, what happened on Orchard, 3 or 4 days ago, where people got killed because somebody was passing somebody on, country road. They're going too fast, and they're in a hurry, and the freeways are very congested, which they never used to be. So,
Thank you.
Traffic
I got
congestion.
those down over here.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's balancing the rural feel with progress and a controlled progress, so we don't lose that rural feel.
We'll call him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you move from?
Right, go ahead.
LA? Where
Oh, yes.
Okay, a concern for a long time has been the Southland on-ramp and off-ramp. And I was just hoping that in this time, it could come to fruition because it's needed badly.
Thank you. Absolutely. We're gonna have an activity later where we can have you record that on our map. Thank you.
I think someone had a question about answering back.
I've lived here since 22 years, something like that. Started a family here. My kids live here. I have 4 kids. I have a business here. We do live on an acre. We do have all those things, goats, chickens, whatnot. I love living here. I think it's a great community. I think it's, how would I describe it? It's very community oriented. When we go to different places like Aurora Grande and we talk at those high schools, we're much more together. I would love to see it grow a little. I know that's probably against some people, but somebody with kids, they're bored here. It'd be nice to have a few things in place for the growth and the younger people.
Thank you. Right next to you.
We moved here 20 years ago, roughly. When we moved here, there was a rec center. And we moved here, there was more community involvement. And that went away. And it never came back. And I think that's one of the saddest things ever. I brought my child here because I love the community, what it was. And I think parts of it have been removed and not returned. And if we don't gain those back, we'll lose what you all are talking about. And this will turn into just another postage stamp town with 20,000 houses that all look like. And I think the rec center was a real good starting point. This community built it by hand. The men's club raised the money and the funds to do it. It burnt to the ground, and none of the money was used to redo the rec club. I think that's unfortunate. And that's a symbol of a bunch of things that I've seen in these years that has been detrimental to the overall community feel of Nipomo.
Claire, do we have time for one more? Should we
Yeah.
go on to the next one?
In Old Town, I'm part of the Old Town group, the men's club that you talked to Tom Wiesman about that, and we had the Gensel come into commercial because we use the growth down there as well.
Did you have, yes. And this will be, we'll move on to the next question after this.
The existing plan demands upscale businesses and so forth a little bit beyond what Nipomo needs right now, I think. And some of the businesses being built have not done too well. That should be looked at.
Do you mean in how they physically look, or what kind of businesses are coming in?
The type of business, I guess. Imagine business in downtown San Luis. We don't quite have that here. Same people, different business.
I'd like to clarify.
Are we giving people the choices that they travel other places for?
The needs.
You know, are
Yeah,
the needs
yeah.
being met here? Yeah.
And is there redundancy?
Yeah.
We have 3 smoke shops, I think.
It's a lot.
Smoke shops.
Yeah.
All right, and the next question?
I got a question.
Yeah.
So, I guess my concern is how do we keep our, property taxes here being spent here rather than, the four other supervisors that are always against Supervisor Paulding?
That's a
And how do we get them to buy in?
Great
and
question.
support this community?
I was waiting for that question. Because that is an opportunity to plug for our next workshop, which is gonna be called Funding This Journey. We're gonna talk all about that. We're gonna talk about, what property taxes, how those are used now, what other options are out there to help meet Nipomo's needs. So please keep that question and bring it to the next workshop, because we're gonna be talking all about that on July 13th at the Daniel Building. Thank you.
Can I add one more? I'm sorry, just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I grew up in San Luis, and Nipomo now is like San Luis was 45, 50 years ago. Yes, I'm that old. I lived in the outskirts by the airport, and now you see what's going on at the airport and everything that's going up and all that, but it's got that feel of what I grew up with in the outskirts and San Luis itself, without the downtown. But that's what Nipomo was about. That's why we moved here 25 years ago, is because it had this feel of San Luis. But we're not to San Luis's growth yet and all that, but it's just got that feel for me of what San Luis was 50 years ago.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that actually leads us to our next question. So what values make Nipomo unique, and how do they shape the built environment? What was that?
We all know our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
We all know our neighbors.
Family.
Family.
Small community.
We've got neighborly, family. I've heard lots about the rural nature. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yes, yes. I'd like to see, focus on all age groups and all different types of groups. We seem to be sorely missing a bunch of groups, and I'm just aware of seniors more than others right now, but, we need activities that are appropriate for, like I say, from toddlers to seniors, and the activities that we really could do as a community and really build community networking and support foundations here. We really need that.
I appreciate that,
more
because
so.
that's what we're trying to get with this question, is like, how can the built environment, the actual buildings and parks and community spaces reflect the values of having multiple generations in this community and people knowing their neighbors and things like that. Thank you.
We'd like to show our pride in this community, and I find, at least on the news that I see, there's very few stories about Nipomo. It's like, oh, we're like an afterthought, kind of, But I see all the activity in North County, and people are, things are thriving, and we may not want the development they have, but it's the activities that you see all the time that are happening. It's like, what happened in Nipomo? It just kind of, it's disappeared. We need that kind of spirit to be moved forward again.
Thank you. Yes.
I feel like we need a junior high in Nipomo rather than KG.
Look for that in the needs section. Right, Adrian, we can move to the next.
Yeah, we can skip this question, but yes.
The most important thing is, with all this overdevelopment, we are going to need water. There is no more water here, and that's a baloney thing. Every time the reservoirs fill up, there's no new place to get water. So there has to be a plan to truck in water during drought periods, and funding for that from Northern California, or a immediate thing to build a desalinization plant to provide water when the wells go dry. We've only been here 15 years, and we've seen water running out twice, okay? Where the rocks were showing in the reservoirs at the bottom, and some mud. There was no water. And like I say, that's happened twice in only 15 years being up here. And there's a long history of it, so this is not gonna go away, anytime ever.
Sure,
So-
thank you. We're gonna move into more conversation about specifically needs like that, so I appreciate you. I wrote
That's
that
something
down
on the
here over
list.
here. Yeah, thank you.
Since we're talking about needs, animal services is very important. We do not have animal services on our side, excuse me, of the county. And we have animals, lots of them. So that's really, really important.
Thank you. All right, if we can just, we're gonna talk a little bit more about, before we get to more needs like that, I wanna hear more about specific, like, places in the community that you have thoughts about, ideas about. So this first question, like, I wanna know what places here do you visit the most? And why do you go there?
Because they have places to walk. To be honest, in most of our neighborhoods, we don't have sidewalks. So I really don't like walking in the streets because a lot of the traffic can be really dangerous. So sidewalks and things, but the park is a big one. We come here and walk.
There's two other ones right here in the red.
Yes, I wanted to suggest that we have like a safe school, route program where you have volunteers to staff themselves at street corners, and you have children riding their bikes and walking with those monitors at specific corners to get this area free of the traffic that happens around 3 o'clock.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, we'll get to you guys. I think there was someone in the third room. Was that you?
Yeah, I'm curious how many people actually walk. I mean, like the circumference of the city and in places that you don't really need to go and just explore like a kid. I grew up in an area where we just explored the hills to look for Coke bottles and so forth. And so it's like, if you get out of your car, there is a lot of rural area, you know? There's a creek that flows through along the freeway under the bridge there and goes into the farmland. We are a bird refuge here.
Are there any
so many
specific places you like to go to be
there's, you know, it's wherever there's nature and overgrowth. You know, we have in Old Town, there is a reserve, land set aside, from the Land Conservancy there, and I was kind of trying to follow that, but it's cut off to people right now, I think for safety, yeah, and stuff, so, yeah, all that. But I'd like to tie that with the need of how do we open up those special spaces to teach children about them, you know, to expose them to it, so that it's, you know, their experiences aren't just sports or just this or just that, but that they can actually come to a place where they can appreciate the community they live in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can we take 2 or 3 more and then
Yeah.
move to the next question?
Let's hear from the back row.
Yeah, I'd just like to mention that the dog park at the park is a place we would love to use more, but the condition it's in right now is pretty poor. Apparently it was built on a landfill, and there's glass and things that you wouldn't want your dog walking on. And also it's mostly just dirt, so if we take our dog there, she comes home filthy. So it'd just be nice to have a little nicer place to take your animals.
Thank you. Any other places that you like to go, that you like to visit? We'll get to what you don't like.
The shopping area is a lot because we have hardware store, we have bonds, that general shopping area.
Okay.
In Nipomo, we're there like daily, so
Okay, thank
using
you.
the services of the different shops that are there, so that's a big use right there in Nipomo.
Thank you. And you've had your hand up for a while, so.
There is a plan for the Nipomo Creek walkway all the way to the Santa Maria River. There used to be a narrow gauge railroad that came through right down there below Dana Adobe. And there's a wetland now established because the farmers weren't allowed to graze anymore in that area down there where the wetland is that crosses the freeway. So there's a lot to do here, and boring is in your head.
Thank you. Do we have time for more or 2 more?
I'd love to hear 2 more about places that you like to visit, please.
Behind you.
The hills. There's no access. We staring them our whole lives. There's no access.
No, Dr. Dean, I don't think we've heard from you yet.
Sorry.
The Nipomo Native Gardens.
Nipomo Native Gardens.
It's nice to go to, but the road is pretty awful, turning right off of, I think it's, what happened, Community Caballo, or.
Oh, yeah, no, it's Osage.
But, yeah, you turn right, yeah.
It's Osage.
Okay, but yeah, that road
needs to be
needs some
paved.
help.
And you had one as well?
Definitely.
Did you have one as well in the strips?
Oh, yeah, I was talking about the
Oh, the
native
same
garden,
thing.
and that road on the west side needs to be paved. It's full of guts and, yeah, it'd be nice to have a restroom there.
In the back here?
Mesa Meadow Pathway.
Where is this? Say it again?
Mesa Meadow Pathway?
Yes.
Where's that?
Goes around Mesa Meadow.
Around where?
1 mile walk around Mesa Meadow.
Where's Mesa Meadow? Yeah, what's the road near it?
Caballo.
Down
at the end?
Actually, if you go to Osage, right up to the.
Mesa Meadow Park?
Oh, sorry, can we quiet down so you can hear her?
We hit the park and it goes to the Dan Adobe, and we're in the process, of working with the Dan Adobe to get that to fruition.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like that.
Alright, next question. Any spaces you avoid? I know some of you were excited about this one. What would you make them feel more welcome to you?
So, for instance, with the native gardens, having Osage Road paved would be more welcoming, right? Any other things like that? We also had something.
We avoid the dog park,
Right.
big chunks of glass.
Dog park,
So now we can
condition of the dog park.
On Sage, it runs around the edge of the regional park, but the school traffic goes right over the side of the Sage each morning and afternoon, and it's so dangerous because there's no sidewalks. So no one can
We
get up to
avoid
the
downtown
community walks.
on Sundays because of the swapping traffic.
And it's swap meets.
Yeah, traffic on Sundays goes around.
Was there one back there?
Yeah, I'd just like to remind people of Old Town Nipomo when we have the live 4th of July parade. I hear people, I'm out in the hall, but I hear you guys saying the sense of community, the sense of rural, this and that. This 4th of July parade in Old Nipomo, when the horses, the FFA kids came and rode their horses and people had their dogs in their car and just wound around. There was such a sense of people being there and enjoying each other and waving and visiting, and the parade went back and around in figure eight. So that was something people really seemed to enjoy.
And then right next to you. Yes.
Hi, I'm on the board of the Nipomo Friends of Nipomo Library, and I heard some gentleman, I think, talk about the need for some kind of a community center, or lady, I guess, for children. I don't know how many of you utilize this library, but we consider this our community center. If many of you don't know, there's some, pick up a newsletter and see what's going on at this library. We have activities for all ages. The library is not, this is not your mother's library anymore. This is a whole different way of utilizing the library. And right now, out in the back, you can go see the activities going on for children. We have story time. I'm not gonna go through it all, but go on nipomoupdate.com. We have our own live. Just see what this can be our community center, because it's for everything.
Aaron Boyd, at the park across the street from Charo on Osage, and if you go into that area, it's pretty rough.
Thank you.
For all kinds of reasons, including homeless.
Yes, 2 words, bigger library for the community, because we've grown so much, and for people like me who need to use the handicap space, if there's meetings going on here, I started going down to Rio Grande because they have sufficient parking for me. So a bigger library, with more handicap parking.
Thank you.
Communication. I've learned so much just sitting here for the last 20 minutes, but where does somebody go to find out this information? Not everybody's on Facebook or wants to be on Facebook. We have no newspaper. There is nothing. I was thinking maybe if I could talk Bonds into putting up a community bulletin board, because everybody seems to be down there. But there's no central communication where information can get out to everybody to bring us together as a community.
Do you think having a physical space like a community center would help with that?
It would help, but there needs to be, we need a newspaper, we need something that people can, like the New Times, the Slow Times, that's a really good source, but we almost need something like that for Nipomo.
Okay. We used to have, are you the one that's asking? Yes. We used to have a newspaper there, but the cost got so unbearable and not enough businesses were supporting it. So that went away. But, I know, would it be better for you to see the different organizations in the Nipomo that can help you decide what you want to do and what your events will be? Would that help you?
Calendar was
Okay, calendar, very good.
Okay, so we've got into, now we're gonna move more towards the needs, and we've heard specific projects from you all, which is helpful. But we will have a mapping activity after this, where you can actually show us on a map where you want specific projects. I'd like to stay a little bit bigger picture for these next couple questions to talk about needs, to hear what good infrastructure means for you. And what should it do for people in your community?
You shouldn't have to leave Nipomo and have all of your essential needs met. That would be good infrastructure.
Thank you. And then we can back.
Yeah, so when I think of good infrastructure, I think about maybe people who can't walk or are younger, so people, like the sidewalks and bike lanes are able to be used by everyone of all ages, right? So that's kind of what I think about for good infrastructure. And making it accessible too, I think that's really important.
I think all of us would probably agree that as far as infrastructure, good infrastructure, to have a plan in place that is followed anytime there's a new development, and all it's doing is adding more traffic onto TEP. And there doesn't seem to be, there probably is, there doesn't seem to be a plan about what to do about that. We keep adding more people here and things, which is fine, but no infrastructure to handle the traffic that is really bad several times a day.
Thank you. Back there.
He picked up one of the things I wanted to talk about is the infrastructure. My background is I was in the military, I was over in Iraq, and I was essentially the city mayor for the Ville next to us. So infrastructure, water, power, roads. But my thing is safety. So you have to have the public safety. So inevitably we're going to increase the population. So we need law enforcement, we need fire safety, we need to have an ambulance service here. To make people safe, to allow them to, if they want to go out and go shopping late at night, they feel safe.
Yeah.
Number one thing is safety. And unfortunately, 5% of our population are going to be bad actors, no matter what. It's been projected as low as 1%, as high as 10%. The 5% that I've seen, both the civilian side and the military side, are bad people. They will do bad no matter what. They need, public safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then
Yeah, increased public transportation in Nipomo. It's hard to get hours for an after school is maybe, a better school bus system, so they don't have to ride on during the school.
Yeah.
That really gets into our other question on here, like how would improved infrastructure impact your quality of life? So with that comment, getting in and out of Nipomo on public transportation would be positive. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that and it's also under.
Yes, it's here, yeah.
I'll just be quick. Our neighborhoods need streetlights, and then I'm going to also voice the sidewalks.
And then
there's no open field for the children of this community. period. Flat open field. There's no soccer field in Nipomo. 25,000 people, no soccer field. Public, you can't access it.
We'll work our way around, so any agreement?
Bike lanes,
Bike lanes?
there's like a couple of, there's some of the street that have decent bike lanes, but there's very few of them. I like to ride, and I used to live in Riverside County, and I had like different rides I could do, so I could do different trips, you know, so it makes it more interesting. Here, I'm just tied to certain roads. And it'd be nice if there was just a, you know, so I can get out on the south, you know, like Orchard, I mean, I tried it once and I said, nah.
I appreciate that.
Real dangerous.
If you'll remember that for our mapping activity, we want to hear that over there on the map. Thank you.
I just think there should be another option than Test Street. I mean, like, there's not a lot of good ways to avoid that, and so the simple thing is just trying to turn onto the freeway to go to AG for work in the morning, gets backed up, and then you can't get across to go to the high school to drop your kid off. So they're really, and we're talking about the Southland, but I think we should be thinking about other options too to relieve the congestion on the bridge. But I remember the prior bridge, so it's a big improvement.
Thank you.
Speaking of Southland, that's what we need is an overpass there, like they got for Willow. But the thing is all of Oak Glen would have to be, infrastructure needs to be totally upgraded. There's no sidewalks or anything down there.
Yeah. And then we'll get to you. Did you and Black Jacket have anything, or was that? Oh, that was you then. Go ahead.
I want to second the communication as a huge thing we need to get better at. Also, I'd like to see us designate community centers, like having a rec center, this library's community room, the senior center, which nobody even knows exists most of the time. It's there near Nipomo Elementary, and also having cooling centers in the summer. Have them designated so you can go to a pamphlet on Nipomo and it can say this is where you go if there's a problem, or if we have emergencies. I'd love to see Jim O'Miller Park that has been, this land's been set aside for years and nobody's developed. A flat central park that we could go to with both community affairs and emergency things. We could this is where we could go in case something happened, that we can gather and collect all the resources together.
Thank you. Yeah, these are all really great ideas. And then Nipomo?
Yeah, I want to add to that recreation comment and the soccer fields. Yeah, guys got a great park up here, but there's nothing on the other side of the freeway. A lot of kids is not doing nothing up to no good.
Yeah. And then did you have something?
I think we need a better recycled water program
Recycle water.
for all the commercial and all the new infrastructure. You also need to have gray water, and have board each of us gray water, and use your house water, water your plant. It's missing. I also think it sounds like we might need a website instead of a newspaper. That might be easier to print it out. Smoke announcements, we can put your calendars on it, meetings, whatever, and have accessible food.
Thank you. Do you have time for more, or should we?
I'll take one more.
Item number 2. Item 122. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So I happen to know that Dana over here is on target for a big expansion. So I would like to not leave that board without TEPT on here. So there's a big problems along here getting back and forth anytime school, starting or letting out. So that needs to have some real thought put to it.
Yeah, we have kind of relief on theft on here, traffic relief.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Lynn will be the
And my vision would be a comprehensive coordination with all the schools in Nipomo to provide after-school recreation areas. Somehow the schools escape that.
Yeah, locked down. They're locked down.
That's wise. Yeah, go ahead. You can go.
So, I run the recreation department here, which is a nonprofit. We're not affiliated with the county at all, anything like that. You build me what he said, soccer field, a community center. My ultimate plan is, and has been for 10 years, to get every age into that community center. We can have different classes for different ages. We can have this. That's what I do for a living. So you build it, I will make them come.
I appreciate that. And I think that goes with this conversation because what I'm kind of hearing is like partnership. What kind of partnerships can the county do with existing groups?
Here's your number one partner right here.
My guy, take my card.
Jimmy knows it already.
Oh
yeah.
All right, let's get to the last questions. So what's more important to you, fast improvements with shared costs or slower improvements with costs that cost less? How can we ensure that all Nipomo residents, or Nipomo neighborhoods, and group benefits from new infrastructure?
Really, the context of these questions is we're talking about, at the end of this, having a public facilities financing plan, right? So we've talked a lot about the where, when, a little bit of who, but let's talk how. How fast do you want things to happen? Like, what's important to you, in terms of who's included? We've heard some of that too. So we'd love to just think about how to make these things happen.
Well, the problem there is the permit process takes so long to get anything going. And they have the planning, then the engineers have to look at it, then there's an environmental look at, and then finally the permits get, something has to be streamlined. Even if we wanted to go slow with less cost, it still is even slower.
Maybe having more than one, maybe having one planner for Nipomo, one or two, that would probably speed up the process. And I think that's part of the problem. I know we're waiting every year to do our part, so.
I hear that, and I'll also say this next year and a half, like, I'm your gal, I'm your planner, so take my card and make sure we get in contact.
It's kind of a hard question to answer because I think we need to organize all the needs first. And so I think it's gonna come down to a balance. A gaping hole, like move fast.
Yes.
But something that, is not, it's an improvement and we can, be methodical about it, then slower.
Absolutely. And then you go first.
Define shared cost. Who are we sharing with or sharing from?
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say community development block grants and assistance from the county with, for say like the rec district or anybody else in the Nipomo that's applying for help. So they can help them get through the process because it's difficult to get through.
Claire, do you mind if I pop in for a half
Sure,
second?
please.
Of course, it's been really hard for me because I've got answers to a lot of it, but this is my opportunity to listen, and I appreciate you weighing in. On this, just to help you frame that question with a little more detail, the sheriff's substation project is finally moving forward, right? That project was identified in the 1994 plan. It took some advocacy, but getting it into the county's capital improvement plan. So that would be an example of a slow project where the need has been identified, but it takes a long time to get it done. The community center we're talking about is probably a $15 million project. The county doesn't have capital improvement program funds for that. There was a question about property taxes, and we'll get into that at the next workshop, and I want to show you where all that money goes to pay for all the services countywide. But the point is if like for a community center, for example, let's say that's one of the things that comes away as a high priority in the context of this. Would the community want to support some kind of bond measure to fund that? Or if we're talking about getting Jim Miller Park turned into a pocket park on the east side of town now, what would the community be willing to support? For example, there was an assessment, a property assessment in that district boundary, in like the downtown improvement district that failed some years ago. Folks didn't want to pony up a little bit more money to make that happen. So I hope that we can get into those conversations and actually walk away with an idea of what you would support. Because what I hear is that the needs are pretty known and consistent, and many of them were in the 1994 plan. The community has an appetite for something here. So how do we develop a plan that works for everybody? So maybe that helps give context for answering those questions. I'm going to step back out of that.
I just, and Jimmy's aware of this, the master plan for the park already has a rec center in it, and the PFF and would be fees being used, could do that without us having to say it's $45 million. So if this
new development and other developments come about, there are monies available for a rec center, so. And it is there.
That's a great point. The challenge is so development pays fees, just generally not enough fees to act like $15 million for a community center isn't gonna be overnight. It's gonna take a lot of time. So if the community wants to wait for years and years and years and see if we can add up that money to get to that point where we can fund something like that, that would be an example of kind of waiting. Another idea is a public-private partnership for the community center, where we would try to engage with another nonprofit. Of course, Nipomo Rec would be my first choice. I know there are others like YMCA that actually have more capital funding that they can put towards projects. So the county could provide the land where it's actually master planned here in the park, and then a nonprofit could try to partner. Or there could be an assessment that everybody pays in the community for certain things. So those are the kind of things that we'll look at.
Question. How come we don't have Mellow Roof tax for new infrastructure so they would pay more?
We could create a community facility financing district called a CFD. That's one option that I think we'll look at when we get there. You know, we got to figure out what the community wants, so we're just kind of here at the first step.
Are you busy on July 13th? If not, we have our next workshop then. I'd love those thoughts and ideas here, please.
Yeah, thank you all. We're at about an hour. Are we still doing time?
We need to jump into our next activity. Thank you, Adrian. But let me Thank you so much for your input, everyone. We really appreciate that. Please, I'm going to keep this. I'm taking a picture of this to inform my process, and you're welcome to take a picture too. If there's anything that you didn't have a chance to share with us, please come up and talk to one of our staff members about it. And also, again, we have that comment box in the back where you can write anything more down that you think contributes to this conversation. But kind of your questions most recently about funding and about infrastructure and what that costs and how long that takes is actually a really great segue into our next group activity. And so for this activity, it's going to hopefully be fun to you, a little game. So we're going to play an infrastructure funding exercise game. I'm going to pass out some paper to you all, and if you can group up with a couple of the people around you, I would appreciate that. And we're gonna play through this game, which the real premise is you have 20 points total to spend on infrastructure in Nipomo. I want to know, how are you going to spend it? And we're not seeing it. My bad. Here we go. I was like, why do I have all these blank stairs? So this is our exercise. You have 20 points total to spend on infrastructure in Nipomo. How are you going to spend those 20 points? And we have here some options of what you could build. So in this scenario, all of these options are rated proportionally. So a community center, out of all the things here, could end up being the most expensive project. And so that there is 20 points. It costs 10 points to build a highway on or off ramp, 10 points to build 2 small neighborhood parks, 8 points to build some park trails, 6 points to build a roundabout, 5 points for bike lanes, 5 points for commercial area or neighborhood betterment programs, beautification, and then 2 points for flood prevention and 500 feet of sidewalks, so a small stretch of sidewalks. So I'm going to pass around some scratch paper. If you can group up with the 4 or 5 or 6 people around you, go through and rate these things real quick, and then nominate someone to tell me in about 5-10 minutes. All right, we're going to wrap up. A lot of good discussion happening. Okay, here we go. Thanks so much. There's a lot of conversation around that. I really appreciate that. Thanks for being engaged with this activity and getting things going. So now, just in a second, we'll go around the room, and I want to hear from your spokesperson what projects they wanted to build. But before that, if you need to run out and you haven't stopped at our little kiosk out here, we have copies of that online survey We would really want to hear your input. So on your way out, if you have to leave before we're wrapped up, please stop by there and grab a survey. There's also an option for you to take it online too. And we have a duplicate of this mapping activity out there too, so you'll get to participate still. Okay, let's go around the room. I'm not sure where the groups were, so if you're a spokesperson, can you please raise your hand and we'll go around? Great, thank you. Right here in front.
Okay, since you thought that a community center needs water, we wanted water up there. If it wasn't, it's choosing the community center.
Okay, community center. Next spokesperson.
So, we went off a little bit. So we spent 10 points on the highway on off route through congestion relief, and then our off the wall was we spent 10 points on the animal services building. And half the price of a community center was way smaller. So
Wow, that's amazing. All right, so we had an on-off ramp and also a bonus animal services. All right, over here.
Well, first of all, we were offended we only had 20 points.
Isn't that tough when the resources are limited? Tough.
But I feel because of the need right now that the highway on-off ramp is really, really essential because of the traffic flow issues. And then there was quite a lot of discussion on what would be the second thing. And we finally decided maybe 2 small neighborhood parks that would build more community and like Jim Miller Park and then something else that would help in a lot of other areas.
You have 5 more points.
No? It says 10 points, 2 small neighborhood parks.
10 and 10. That's not an off ramp.
My bad.
Oh, we have 5 more?
Yeah, give him 5 more.
We found more resources.
Your taxes just went up.
All right, who's next? Over here.
So we agree with the off-ramp, but because we thought that should be paid for by our gas tax, we didn't include that.
Subverting the game rules here.
Yeah, so the next one is bike lanes, commercial, park trails, and sidewalk for 20 points.
Thank you. Right here. On the straight.
For a little bit, I said 10 points for the highway on and off ramp, 5 points for the bike lanes, and then I had park trails, so I went over 20.
I'm not sure that'll pencil out. Appreciate that. I think right here I accidentally kind of called him.
This was interesting. We wrote down park trails, commercial area, traffic on off-ramp, community center, 500, sidewalk, and want to win the lottery to do this. But when you look at these, you can almost divide them into safety versus quality of living. And when you separate it, it becomes a little clear as to what should come first. Because you're almost mixing apples and oranges with this. And as far as safety goes, we saw the traffic on and off ramp and the 500 feet of sidewalk to provide safety. So that would be like one. And then the other would be like commercial area and the park trails, and the community center would be like a thing all into itself. So I know that's not my cup of tea, but it's really difficult when you have to try and put that all into one basket, and like safety's like yesterday.
Yeah, it's okay. We're working on the deficit budget anyway.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing there is, there's safety, and then there's just your livelihood in terms of enjoying where you live, and that's really the balance I think that I heard a lot during our discussion before this is how can we really balance those things. And so I appreciate that. I think even if you didn't get to 20 points, like that's qualitative input that helps us understand what you want as a community, but also you're realizing the challenge here, right? With limited resources, what do you prioritize? What do you put first? So thanks for engaging in the discussion.
Yeah.
think first you were thinking about a community center, but it had a lot of points. We really like the community center.
Can we keep it down? Sorry, I can't get
Maybe
up here.
follow from like past history, get the funding. But since that's not enough points, we decided to go with a highway on, off ramp somewhere around Story, Southland, around there, that area. And then a roundabout somewhere, maybe off of Pomeroy or Grande and Orchard, Pomeroy and Tep, somewhere there. And then 1,000 feet, so 500 times 2 of sidewalks on Tep, like across the street and down towards, the highway
Okay, great, thank you.
from here.
Back here?
Yeah, our group voted on 4 items, not necessarily in level of importance, but it seems the crowd favorite is the highway on-off ramp. And the flood prevention, 2, bike lanes for 5, and sidewalks for 2.
Thank you. That's the first flood prevention I think we've heard. Only one group cares about that. Back here?
We used a total of 19 points.
Okay, 19 points.
For saving money.
Okay, saving money.
Yes, for maintenance considerations and upkeep. So we used 10 points for bike lanes. Just having bike lanes are enough, so more comfortable bike lanes as well. And then 5 points for our commercial area and neighborhood beautification. That costs money to maintain as well, and also to incorporate that. And then 4 points for our missing sidewalks.
Thank you. Back here?
We also had a hard time just figuring out where to put it, but we all agreed that highway on-ramp, off-ramp was our #1, followed by the 2 small neighborhood parks for community.
Thank you. Back here?
The community center ate it up, but I figured if we partner with somebody like the YMCA, they can inherit it.
Creativity. I like that.
Yes, activities for everybody, right? Okay, so, the highway, the on and off.
I think she goes this way.
Bike lanes, and neighborhood parks.
Great, thank you. We got that down. Right here?
Ours were similar, the off-ramp and the bike lanes, sidewalk, and commercial neighborhood beautification.
Great, thank you. Terry?
We decided that it would be cheaper to run Holding for governor so we could get that highway on and off. My favorite is the perimeter trail in the park, specifically so that the people who live in at the south end of that park could have a perimeter trail along that Osage, and it would be much safer to walk on. My final 2 points is the sidewalk.
Great, thank you. Back here.
All right, we actually picked flood prevention first. Now, I live up here on the mesa, not down there, but I remember it always getting flooded down there all the time. Then, obviously, we need a highway off-ramp, that's another 10. And then bike lanes, especially near the the schools, because kids can use them. So we have 3 points of surplus, and we can use that for next year. Budget.
Great, thank you. Anyone else, any other groups we missed? No? Thank you all. I really appreciate you thinking about that with us. When there are limited resources, what matters? And actually, through a lot of that, I heard a lot of specific projects. We kept this broad, but I heard a lot about, in this place I want to see this, in that place I need to see this, and that really helps get you in the headspace for our next activity, which is not a group activity, but is going to allow you to walk around the room a little bit, maybe take a bathroom break, grab a snack or a bottle of water, or get some fresh air for a minute. But please make sure you walk around. We're going to have this next solo activity, which is mapping out improvements your community needs. Yes, James?
I'm sorry. I feel like I want to poll the group one question based on that the point systems that were there. If the community center hadn't eaten up all of your points, I just out of the groups, not just the team leaders, not everybody in the room, who would have wanted to include the community center in their selection of options? Again, well, I think we get the general sentiment. Okay.
Okay.
I just because it did eat up all the points, I heard a lot of consternation among people about wanting to include it, and not at the expense of everything else.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Okay. One person mentioned earlier why the highway ramp is even on there. There should be other funds available for that. That involves the highway. We're a part of, I guess what I'm saying is, aren't there other sources to fund that
Right,
tax base, et cetera?
We'll get into those details at the next workshop on July 13th at the Dana Adobe in the afternoon. But you bring up a good point. There are other jurisdictions, other agencies with jurisdiction like Caltrans when we're talking about a highway project, and so I'd love to get into how those all connect at the next workshop. Thank you.
We used to use the schools for adult ed and so on, and I don't think we're using the schools beneficially. As far as the community center goes, there's plenty of space after 3 o'clock.
Okay, we can take that down. Thank you. Any other questions about this activity before we move on? Yes.
What time was it?
Oh, thank you. 2:30. And information like that you can find on our website as well. Thank you. The website, let's see. Yes, it's on the bottom of the agenda. We also have magnets up here with a QR code to take you there. I don't want to say it out loud in case you don't get it all down, right now, but we have the QR code up here with the website, and I'll also have it on an upcoming slide too. All right, any other questions before we move on to the next activity? Okay, great. All right, like I said, take a bathroom break if you need, but please come back in. We have this mapping activity where we have 3 maps around the room. James, I think, is grabbing the 3rd map. This map right here up front is where we want to see your ideas for transportation improvements. So we've heard a lot about different areas, different roads that need improvements, or whatever it may be. If you can take an orange sticky note and write down those transportation improvements and put it on the map where you'd like to see it. Same thing goes for the other 2 maps. The blue map back here is for services. So examples of that is like flood prevention, police services, water and wastewater services, cemetery, things like that. Please use that map for those improvements. And then our 3rd map is going to be over here in the hallway.
Just to make it easier for people to get around.
Thank you. The 3rd map is going to be over here in the hallway, and that's going to be where we'd like you to write things about amenities. So any parks, trails, community center. We know it sounds like a lot of people in the room want a community center, but please use that map to show us where. Where exactly do you want to see that? If there is a specific improvement that might not have a specific location, just please still write it down and stick it on the side of the map because we still want to hear what that is from you. Are we pretty clear on what? Okay, great. So you're going to have about 20, you'll have about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll regroup. Again, if you have to leave after that activity, please make sure you access the survey using our kiosk outside. And staff will be up here for any questions. Alright, thank you all for being here. If you're out in the hallway, just want to wrap up really quick. We have about 9 minutes until our workshop is wrapped up. Again, I just have on here plugging our next workshop, which is on Sunday, July 13th at the beautiful Dana Adobe Cultural Center in the afternoon. And again, we're going to be talking then about funding the journey. 13th. And if you haven't had a chance to take the survey, I think we're all out of physical copies, so you can access it if you have a smartphone by scanning this QR code right here. if you want to take it now. If you don't want to take it now, it's also up on our website, which the URL is right here, the link to our website. But if you don't want to type that in, we have a magnet up here with the website on there too. I just want to say thank you again so much for being here and giving us your time and your energy, but also your input. You know, we started out this afternoon with giving some background information on really what this Nipomo Community Plan update is all about. We talked about the existing planning documents and how we're zooming in on that Nipomo Community Plan. At the end of this 1.5-year journey, we want to have a community plan that's updated with the Public Facilities Financing Plan, the PFFP. The PFFP tells us what projects need to get done, where, when, and how they're going to happen, and who's going to be responsible for those, that really specific plan. So thank you so much. You've given us so much input on what you want Nipomo to look like and what's missing. And I think a big takeaway for me today is there's just a desire for connection, community connection, and in a community that's thriving. And so let's keep going towards that through this process. So thank you so much. Make sure you take the survey and tell your friends and your neighbors and everyone you know about it. We want a lot of feedback there. Thank you for being here.